What's up, guys? As you know, I love competing in the real estate realm. That's why today I'm going to review Winning by Tim Grover, the former trainer of both Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, as well as Dwayne Wade, amongst others. And in the book Winning, he takes a different approach to break down all of the winning mindset and everything that goes into actually the journey of winning. So stay tuned. I absolutely love this book and I can't wait to share it with you. What's up, guys? Jeremy Kane, Real Estate Agent Playbook. Thank you so much for tuning in on the podcast, watching on YouTube. Let's get into this wonderful review of this amazing book. And as you know, I'm ultra competitive. Jordan's my guy. But when I'm looking at my real estate business, there's so much that I can incorporate from this book into the winning mindset and continuing to, defeat those, tough markets and all the things that we go through in the real estate game. So let's kind of dive in. The first thing that I took from this book right off the bat was routines are freedom. In the book, Grover goes into the relentless routines of Kobe Bryant from the early days of getting to the gym and getting his shots up, and Tim Grover trying to show up early to impress him, showing up, and Kobe's been there for an hour before time. And so getting these routines in is absolutely huge when you bring this over to the real estate game, because obviously there's ups and downs as you go through. We just went through Thanksgiving holiday here at the time of this recording. And if you do anything to break that routine, it takes you a while to get that momentum back up. And so starting with the routine, as you've seen on the channel before, routines are key. So in the book, he breaks down Kobe Bryant's relentless routine to greatness. And this is something that you can easily apply just at the basic level to get your real estate business moving every single day, every single morning. Have that routine. And next, we'll talk about the battle in your mind. And he says something that's very unique, and I'm actually going to read it for you. Your thoughts have to be consistently renewed. And this is crucial because everything changes. The world around us is changing, and there's always going to be that doubt come in. So you always have to constantly renew your thoughts and continue pushing forward as you go. So he breaks this down, absolutely, goes into the Mamba mentality and, Jordan and how he took his relentless competition and had to constantly renew his mind and renew his thoughts in order to continue to stay at the highest level. There's always someone there to replace you. And in real estate, this is huge because there's always that next technology. There's always, different things coming in, different changes to the industry. And you have to constantly renew your mind and consistently do what it takes to win every single day. And so that's a great correlation, in my opinion, to what we are going through currently in our market with the shifting market, as well as the changing, of the tide with the buyer commission lawsuits and all of those things. Is just continue to focus on the mind. If you win that mental game and you stay sharp and stay focused, you will absolutely continue to be great at what you do. Next, he goes into opinions and stop letting other people's opinions have such high value, right? We have to continue to push through everything that we do. It doesn't matter what it may look like to the outside. Obviously, have your time, do your family stuff, and maybe that's even more, of something you have to guard is your free time and that time. But make sure that you have your guard up of other people's opinions. They're going to come in, right? Throwing stones at glass houses isn't the hardest thing to do. So understand that if you don't completely give in to other people's opinions, and if you don't let them in, you can stay focused on your goals, your path. And honestly, that's the best way to go about your real estate business. Something I've done a ton in my real estate business is, that's not going to work, especially coming from a, traditional, my dad, in the business and things, that social media is not going to work. Oh, that's not going to work. But it also works backwards, right? I'm a Buffini trained agent. There's new agents that are like, oh, that Buffini stuff, it doesn't work. The truth is that almost every top producing agent goes back to some sort of training from one of the classics. It's just when you make those adjustments and make those adjustments on your terms, not someone else's terms. And that is absolutely, what you have to protect, because other people's opinions, here's the deal. Other people might not understand what your goals are, what your, winning actually looks like, because it's an internal thing. What is winning? We don't have the game. We don't have the championship to win. We have, sure, closed deals and lives changed and all these things, but that's a very subjective matter. So we have to understand that other people's opinions, certainly, if they're in your top 5, whatever it is, and they're going to hold you accountable and whatever. But for the most part, other people's opinions entering our business when they don't quite understand is usually a recipe for disaster. Next, he goes into such a cool point of playing with energy, not emotion. And oftentimes we get into this, inspection objection or inspection negotiations, and we have such energy, right? Or we're negotiating the price of the contract to go under contract. And there's such high energy in that. But oftentimes we let the emotions run into, this, and he said this, or they want this, and it's kind of us against them. And we set up this kind of battle. But the truth is that we can operate with high energy. We can vibrate at high energy frequencies and not allow the emotions to take hold, right? We are doing something that's pretty straightforward here in purchasing a home. How do we get what we want? How do they get what they want? And how do we get this home, transferred is really what our job is as agents. And oftentimes we operate at that really high emotional level. And that's when sometimes feelings get hurt and people get upset. And, you have buyers and sellers not agreeing. And then here comes the next negotiation. And it's like, we've all been there where it's like, oh man, I pick up the phone and have this conversation. I know exactly what it is, because if these emotions are high and we allow the emotions to get the best of us, then we're not operating and getting to the finish line with the best possible outcome. And so if we operate with energy, yes, but leave the emotion to, the other side. And as agents, our buyers and sellers are going to have those emotions, right? They're the ones that are super invested in this purchase. And so we have to allow them to have those emotions, have those things come up, but then help them through that to convert those emotions to energy positive towards the finish line. And so that's something that's absolutely crucial, and a really cool thought of energy versus emotion, and how we want our, transactions to operate with energy and leave the emotions on the sidelines a little bit so that we can get the best possible deal for our client. So if this book sounds great to you, definitely pop that like button. If I said something that you're like, oh, dang, that's cool, we're not done yet, but I just wanted to throw this in there. If you have read this book or you have something to add to it, please throw that in the comments. We're working on getting this engagement going. If you're listening on the podcast, definitely throw that review, and we will continue as we dive through this, very intense book that relates so much to my business. The next one is probably my favorite one of the entire, show here, and that's talking about handling fear and doubt. And Grover says, distinguishing fear from doubt. Fear is pressure, doubt is panic. And so I think especially in these shifting markets as agents, if we're doubting, we're like, oh man, I don't know, the market might crash, or I don't know if this house is, gonna appreciate like it has over the 60-year history of Denver, or all of those things, that starts to instill panic, right? And so if we continue to, operate under fear, right? Because we have to know that we could lose, that could be taken away, but we cannot have doubt, because the panic is what sets in. And it's kind of like that emotion stuff, right? We start doing stuff, we start, putting money towards different marketing things that we know don't work, and, just to get that next deal. And our energy level is super high. But if we allow that emotion to come in and make that doubt start to creep in, then that's when things start to change. Sure, fear up here, I fear every single day of, not being able to win the game, not being able to support my family. And I use that as fuel. But the minute that we start to let the doubt creep in and we start to panic because, oh man, the market's changing, what are we going to do? And we start throwing everything out, and not doing what we know works, not getting back to that routine, that's when things can really get ugly. So if you're in that time frame in your business and you're watching this, just understand that, okay, that's doubt, that's creeping in. Like, let's mitigate this. Let's get back to basics is one thing I do. when I start to let that fear kind of creep into doubt. And once I get back to the basics, I do what I know works. I go back to my Facebook Messenger and I have those conversations. I start having the conversations, and next thing you know, we have 3 or 4 deals under contract. And so that's definitely something that you can work on, but keep in mind having a good fear up here, but let's not get too far down the ranks where doubt starts to creep in and panic ensues. And then, to sum it all up, he comes up with 4 components of winning: talent, intelligence, competitiveness, and resiliency. And this is absolutely key. So let's start with the talent. You must be educated. You must continue to follow the market and understand what's going on. That's kind of talent as it portrays to a business, is knowing what's coming, right? Being able to have the trust that you will be able to react in the right way, in the right mind space to anything that comes your way. This is absolutely crucial in a time like this where the market may be shifting. The market may be great. The market may be different than you've ever seen it before. And that's why I love real estate, is because it's all about problem solving. So if you can take that talent and then you can incorporate your intelligence into the decision making. Okay, deep breath. We're not going to we're not going to get into the doubt piece. We're not going to panic. I understand that I have to stay, cool, calm, collected here. Maybe your buyer's client is operating in a very high emotional state. Okay, this is how we work through this. This is what we've seen. This is my experience. And that's where the intelligence kind of comes in. And then, of course, competitiveness is absolutely one of the reasons I love real estate, right? I love winning. I love getting my client the very best deal I can. But as part of that, it's almost like sportsmanship or gamesmanship, right? You want to make sure that everyone feels like they have some sort of win. So as you're doing this and you're working through that, the competitive juices are flowing and you're ready to go, and you want to get that best house for your client. You want to do all the things that the client is wanting on the inspection. But as you kind of operate using that intelligence, say, okay, this is my competitive, this is what we're going to do. This is my strategy, right? And operate under that. Be open about that, because your strategies are oftentimes the reason that people pay you the big bucks, because the strategy to get to the finish line for the best deal possible for your client, whether it's buyer or seller, is absolutely, what you hold inside as far as your intelligence and your talent. So those 3, and then resilience, right? You don't always win every single game. You're not going to win every negotiation you ever set out to do. But if you're resilient and you continue to get up and you continue to push forward and have your client's best interests, then you will ultimately win. And being around, winners in your brokerage, being around winners, just like, they talk about Jordan, Kobe, Dwayne Wade in the book, is absolutely clutch. So, ultimately, it's a huge mindset shift. I would absolutely recommend Winning by Tim Grover for you to get going in your real estate business. Maybe not a, how-to real estate kind of thing, but if you've been in the business a few years, I would definitely read this and understand what winning actually is and incorporate there's so many correlations to your real estate business. And I just had to come on here. This is actually one of my favorite book reviews I've ever done, because of its relevance to the real estate industry. So I hope it helped. Again, Tim Grover, he also wrote Relentless. I've done a video review on that. You can check that out on my channel. But while you're here, like, comment, subscribe, throw me, a review on the podcast side, and let's grow these communities up. I hope you have a good one. If you get a chance, grab Winning. And I will tell you, it's Winning, the number 1, NNING. So hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.